I was raving to Jeff the other day about how absolutely amazing I thought the Kumu presentation development facility was and how um, intuitive it wasn't. And he said maybe I should do a video and share some of my thoughts with other people. And as it turns out, the thoughts kind of fall into two categories. So this is the first of two videos. After doing a few hundred Kumu projects and presentations and almost 1,000 YouTube videos, it's apparent that my ignorance never ceases to amaze me. For quite some time, I was trying to put together the project, the presentation, and the video so that any one of them could be the interaction source for whoever ran into it. And, and I have come to realize it's actually a flawed concept, that I can't have all the pieces that I want at the same time. And it's important to understand what it is that you're trying to develop and who the customer is that you're developing it for and how you want the message to come across to them. I have repeatedly found that we tend to become so enamored with the models that we develop that we understand them beyond what we actually explicitly represent in the model. And we become so excited about them, that we go ahead and send it to a friend of ours and say, look at this, isn't this awesome? And the typical tendency is that they will look at this model for a short period of time and they will send back a comment and say, well, that's nice. But usually what they wanted to say was, why the hell did you send this to me? Because we tend to put our models together without sufficient guidance for someone else to actually understand how to wade through the damn thing. Uh, at one point in time, I realized that there's a real connection between a model and a play, and if one learns to unfold the model in a way that it tells a story, for the person who's interacting with the model, by the time they get to the end of the story, they understand the whole model. It's like you go to a play and you sit there from one act to another and you watch the relationships develop between the actors. And by the time, if the play was done well, by the time they get to the end of the play, it's pretty well understood what the play was about and how the themes developed. And when you walk away from the play, you remember a lot of what it was about. If somebody walked up to you and handed you the script and gave you about 20 seconds and said, what do you think of it? You're sort of overwhelmed at a loss for words. So if you develop a project and you want somebody to be able to understand the project from a project perspective, it's good to provide a way for them to understand how to walk through it. So I typically do this so that it starts here, and then if they click here, it takes them to this loop, which is a description of this loop and the pieces, and next it tells them to go to this loop, and then it tells them to go to this loop, and then it goes to the summary, so that it provides a way for them to walk through the sequence and understand it. Though the difficulty here is that they're walking through this sequence and they're trying to read and they're trying to look at the picture, and it gets confusing, and it's difficult. Whereas if you do a presentation and you allow one to walk through that presentation, it can be a bit clearer if you provide a way for them to understand it. Though if you present the information itself, it's still this difficulty of looking at the picture and reading the text and bouncing back and forth from one to the other. And when I was initially doing relationship models for the Perspectives project, I was doing the presentations in such a way that it was depicting the relationships and the text on the side. And fortunately, Ryan said, well, why are you showing the side panel? So that we finally resolved it to say that because I'm creating a video, and using this as the basis for the video, when I do the voiceover, the only thing that the person sees is the model unfolding as I talk about it. And therefore, there's not the distraction about giving them something else to look at as opposed to what you really want them to see, so that when you end up with the video itself simply ends up being so I'm not going to play this for much longer, but you see that the idea is that you allow them to focus on the model as you talk about it and unfold the story so that by the time you get to the end, it's not difficult. And while you may consider doing videos difficult if you use something like Snagit from TechSmith and make your videos 5 to 7 minutes long, they're not difficult at all. Now, I will admit that the first few that I made was probably worse than having a root canal, but after a while I got over it. And people will now ask questions and I will send them a video as a response, because it's just much easier to present the video than it is to type paragraphs and paragraphs of explanation that are difficult to understand without the picture. So that if you simply do a screen grab of what it is that you're talking about, it's much easier. And for the Perspectives project, we're wrapping this all up so that one accesses a wiki page where there's the videos embedded with access to the video, the presentation, the project, and references, and all of that. So it was really developing an understanding of the way that I wanted the audience to connect with what it was that I was creating. And in terms of why I think Kumu is so awesome for creating the presentations themselves, well, I'll talk about that in the next video in a few minutes. So take care. Bye.